There are some stories you hear once and can never put down. Not because they're entertaining, not because they're clever, but because somewhere in the back of your mind, you know, you feel that they're real tonight. I have 3 of them. 3 accounts that were sent to me, shared with me, or that I came across in places people go when they have nowhere else to turn. 3 stories where the people involved are still out there, still looking over their shoulders, still waking up at 3 a.m., wondering if what they experienced will ever come back. I want to warn you now. None of these stories have clean endings. There are no explanations that fully satisfy. No moment where the lights come on and everything makes sense again. So if you're watching this in the dark, you might want to leave a light on. Story 1. The man at the end of the hall. This story comes from a woman named Carla. She's in her mid-30s, lives alone, and at the time of this account, she had just moved into a rental property on the outskirts of a mid-sized town in the American Midwest. She described herself as a light sleeper, said she always had been, even as a child. Every creak of the floorboards, every passing car, she heard it all. So when something woke her up at 2:17 in the morning, she was alert before she even opened her eyes. The house was quiet, but not the kind of quiet you fall asleep to, the kind of quiet that comes after something stops. She told me she lay still for a long time, listening. Then she heard it again, a sound she described as shuffling, slow, deliberate. Coming from the hallway, her bedroom door was closed. She never slept with it open, old habit, and in that moment she was grateful for it. She reached for her phone under the pillow and pulled it close to her chest, not yet ready to turn on the flashlight. The shuffling stopped just outside her door. She said it was the stillness that terrified her more than the sound, because the stillness meant something was standing there, just standing. On the other side of a single hollow core door, she stopped breathing, counted seconds, reached 30 before she heard the sound move again, away from her door this time, back down the hall, then nothing. Carla waited 45 minutes before she moved. Then she checked every room in the house, every closet, under every bed. The front door was locked. The back door was locked. Every window was latched from the inside. She found nothing, no one, no evidence that anyone had been there at all. She chalked it up to nerves, told herself new houses make unfamiliar sounds, told herself she'd imagined it. That was the first night. 4 nights later it happened again. Same time, nearly to the minute. 2:19 a.m., the shuffling in the hallway, the pause outside her door. This time, Carla didn't freeze. She turned on the flashlight on her phone, grabbed the lamp from her nightstand. She'd rehearsed this in her head for 4 days, and she opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the door at the end of the hall, the door to what had been listed in the rental as a storage room, a door she had never once opened. That door was ajar, by about 3 inches. She told me she stood there for what felt like a very long time, looking at those 3 inches of darkness, and she swore to me that something in that darkness was looking back. She didn't open it. She went back to her room, locked the door, sat with her back against it until the sun came up. In the morning, she called her landlord, told him about the room, asked what was in it. He went quiet for a moment. Then he told her it wasn't a storage room, it was a second staircase. An old servant's access stair from when the house was built in the 1940s. He'd had it sealed off years ago after a break-in, she asked. Sealed off how? He said. The lock on the door side. There was no lock on the staircase side. Carla broke her lease the next day, paid the penalty. Didn't go back to collect her things. She had a friend do it in the middle of the afternoon. The landlord had the house inspected. No signs of forced entry, the report said. No evidence of occupation. But Carla told me something the inspector didn't put in his report. When her friend went to collect her things, she noticed the storage room door was closed again, fully shut. And the latch, the small brass latch on the bedroom side that Carla had never touched, had been wiped clean, no fingerprints, not even Carla's own. Someone had wiped it clean from the hallway side. Carla hasn't lived alone since. Story 2. We stopped to help him. I need you to understand something before I tell you this next story. The two people involved, I'll call them Marcus and Devin, are not the kind of people who spook easily. Marcus was a former paramedic. Devin had done 2 tours overseas. These were men who had seen genuinely terrible things and processed them and moved on. They were not prone to panic. They were not prone to imagination, which is exactly why what they told me about the drive home from Devin's cousin's wedding. A 4-hour stretch of highway through rural Georgia still unsettles me more than almost anything else I've come across. It was about 1 a.m. when they saw him, a man standing alone on the shoulder of the highway. No car, no hazard lights, no phone in his hand. Just standing, facing the road, illuminated in their headlights. Devin was driving. Marcus said, "Slow down." Devin had already taken his foot off the gas. They pulled up alongside him. Devin rolled down the window. The man turned to look at them, and Marcus told me the first thing he noticed. The thing that set off every alarm in his body before he'd consciously registered why, was that the man was smiling. Not the relieved smile of someone grateful to be found. Something else. Something that didn't match the situation at all. Devin asked if he needed help. The man said yes. Said his car had broken down about a mile back. Said he'd been walking and his phone was dead. Could they give him a ride to the next town? Marcus said, "Get in." He told me later he regretted saying it before the words had even left his mouth. Not because of anything he could name. Just a feeling. A very loud, very clear feeling that something was wrong. The man got in the back, said his name was Paul, said thank you, said he'd been walking for almost an hour. They drove, made conversation. Paul was friendly, normal even. He asked where they were coming from. They said, a wedding. He congratulated them. Everyone laughed a little. Marcus told me it was about 7 minutes in that he noticed it. He was looking at his phone, checking how far they were from the next town, when he caught Paul in the rearview mirror. Paul wasn't looking out the window, wasn't looking at his phone, wasn't resting his eyes. He was watching Marcus, very steadily, very quietly, and when Marcus met his gaze in the mirror, Paul didn't look away. He held it, still smiling. Marcus looked back at his phone, waited 10 seconds, looked up again. Paul was still watching, hadn't moved at all. Marcus texted Devin. They still had an hour until the next town. He typed 3 words. Something is wrong. Devin, without changing his expression, replied with 1 word. I know. Devin didn't stop in the next town. He drove straight to a gas station, pulled up right under the lights, and said he needed to fill the tank. Said it out loud, casually, to no one in particular. Then he got out of the car, leaving Marcus and Paul inside. Marcus stayed on his phone, pretending to scroll, watching Paul in the mirror. Devin was on the phone with 911 at the gas pump. 2 state troopers arrived 4 minutes later. Paul got out of the car when they pulled up. He didn't run, didn't argue, just smiled, put his hands up slowly and said, "Took you long enough." Marcus and Devin sat in their car while the troopers ran Paul's information. They learned 3 things in the next 30 minutes. 1. The name Paul gave them was false. 2. There was no broken down car anywhere on that stretch of highway. The troopers checked. 3. A woman had been reported missing from a town 12 miles back. She'd last been seen at a rest stop. That was 6 hours before Marcus and Devin had found Paul walking on the highway. She was found the next morning, alive, locked in a drainage culvert about 40 yards off the road. The man who called himself Paul was charged with kidnapping and multiple other counts. He had done this before. Highway 441 specifically. The troopers told Marcus and Devin he had a method. Gain the trust of a vehicle, get inside, use the occupants to help him move. Marcus told me one more thing before we ended our conversation. He said he thinks about those 7 minutes in the car every single day. When Paul was friendly, when the conversation was normal, when everything seemed fine, because he knew something was wrong, and he got in the car anyway, he said. That's the part that stays with you, not the monster. The moment you let the monster in. Story 3, the photograph. The third story is the shortest, and the one I find hardest to explain away. It was sent to me by a woman named Yemi. She's a graduate student, late 20s, rational and methodical by nature. The kind of person who wants to understand things, who resists the pull of superstition. She prefaced her message to me with, "I don't believe in the paranormal. I want you to know that because I need you to understand how long I tried to find another explanation." She hadn't found one. She still hasn't. In October of last year, Yemi was going through photographs on her phone, clearing storage. She reached a batch from about 4 months prior, pictures she'd taken casually over a weekend. Street scenes, food, her apartment. One photo stopped her. She had taken it from her apartment window, a street photo, early evening. She'd been trying to capture the light, nothing special about a very own. A parked car, a sidewalk, a row of terraced houses across the road, but in the background, in the space between two of those houses, in a gap barely wide enough for a person, there was a figure, standing, facing her window, directly. Yemi told me she stared at that photograph for a long time, convinced herself it was a shadow, a post, a trick of the light. She zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. It was a person, standing completely still, face turned up toward her window. The image quality was poor enough that she couldn't make out features, but she could see the posture, the direction, the stillness. She checked the timestamp. She had taken the photo at 6:47 p.m. She had been in that apartment, at that window looking out, and someone had been down there, looking up. Yemi is a thorough person. She went back through every photograph she had taken from that window over the previous 6 months. She found the figure in 11 of them. Different dates, different times, some in daylight, some at dusk, one at nearly midnight. 11 photographs across 6 months, and in every single one, in that gap between the houses, the figure was present, same position, same stillness, same upward angle of the face, always watching her window. She had never noticed. Not once, in 6 months of casually photographing the street below, had she ever looked at that gap between the houses and registered a person standing there. She moved out of the apartment within 2 weeks. She reported it to the police. They took a statement, but with no identifying information about the figure and no evidence of trespassing or threat, there wasn't much they could do. They did take note of one thing she had mentioned to them, and which they asked her to clarify twice, as if they weren't sure they had heard her correctly. In the most recent photograph, taken just 8 days before she found all of this, the figure wasn't in the gap between the houses, it was much closer. On the pavement directly below her window, looking straight up. Yemi's new apartment is on the ground floor. She chose it deliberately. No windows that look down, nothing to stand beneath. She told me she sleeps with the curtains fully closed now. I asked her, "Do you think about it still?" She said, "I think about the 11 photographs I found. And then I think about all the photographs I deleted. All the ones I didn't keep, because they seemed ordinary. Street scenes, early morning light. Nothing in the frame worth holding on to." She paused. She said, "I think about what might have been in the background of all of those. Carla, Marcus and Devin, Yemi. 3 people who went about their ordinary lives and were touched by something they couldn't explain, couldn't forget, and couldn't undo. That's the thing about true horror. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't give you a warning or build dramatic music or show you its face straight on. It arrives sideways, in a shuffling sound at 2 a.m, in a smile that doesn't fit, in a photograph you almost deleted, and it stays. If you have a story, something real, something you've never been able to explain, you know where to find me. I read everything. Subscribe now and join our growing community of horror enthusiasts. Hit the notification bell to never miss a chilling upload, because the shadows are watching and the screams are only beginning. Stay safe. Sleep with the light on. I'll see you in the next one.